إن في هذا لبلاغا للقوم عابدين وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين قل إنما يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فهل أنتم مسلمون فإن تولوا فقل آذنتكم على سواء وإن أدري أقريب أم بعيد ما توعدون Translation. In the name of Allah, the gracious and ever merciful. Remember the day when we shall roll up the heavens like the rolling up of the written scroll by the scribe. As we began the first creation, so shall we repeat it, a promise binding upon us. We shall certainly perform it. And already have we written in the book of David, after the exhortation, that my righteous servants shall inherit the land. Hearing, surely, is a message for people who worship God. And we have sent thee not but a mercy for all mankind. Say, surely has been revealed to me that your God is but one God. Will you then submit? Jazakallah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear respected audience, dear respected members of the four associations, dear respected students, trainees, dear respected members who came from far away, as far as Australia, to attend this meeting, I wish to welcome you on behalf of MSLM, the Sadran, and all of the organizing committee. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are really here at an intersection of faith and science, including medicine and engineering. This is a unique opportunity for us, and I've been given the charge for the next few minutes just to provide an opening, a framework. I won't go into housekeeping details because we tried to do that at Jummah, but I don't know if too many people heard it on the microphone. Nonetheless, there'll be more housekeeping points throughout the weekend, and please, if there are any questions or problems or issues, please come to us. Please forgive us if there was an inconvenience that we caused you, and We are very interested in your feedback, including in the survey. What I'd like to tell you over just these next few minutes is the bigger part of the program and why we're gathered today. This is the opening where we get to hear about important topics, and I'll let my co-moderator introduce the theme for this particular plenary session. But today there will also be mentoring, one-on-one. In this meeting, there'll be meetings of the auxiliaries, and all of, mashallah, the national auxiliary heads are here, and we're very grateful for that. Tomorrow will be the Quran and Science Symposium, which is now in its 12th year, by the grace of God. Tomorrow we'll also have a Fazl Umar Hospital dinner event to raise awareness, as well as to rally our support behind the call of our Imam to support Fazl Umar Hospital. On Sunday, there will be keynotes from each of the three associations who will provide you cutting-edge information about the activities of their professional societies. And throughout this meeting, there will be an Abdus Salam poster session. And I encourage everyone to take a stroll downstairs to the first floor and find the Avalon room and look at the posters. There are posters from all of the four associations, from men, from women, and there'll be special timings for presentations. And sprinkled throughout this meeting are the general body meetings of the associations. And this really is, as Huzur Anwar has asked of us in meetings that we've had the privilege of having with Huzur Anwar, as well as in responses to letters, a partnership that we should, as four societies, make an extra effort to forge. I would just also emphasize that besides the formal one-on-one mentoring, I encourage informal networking. And so don't be shy in introducing yourself to the person next to you. And I just end in this welcoming with the fact that we're here in a comfortable hotel conference room center, and we hope that it will be comfortable for you. But we're really here in a battlefield. And those early battles in Islam are a lesson for us today in this battle that we are in. And I just end with this point about something that really touched me when I heard the Friday sermon on May 2nd of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Aidullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, when he told about the Battle of Mu'tah. The Muslims were for the first time forced into battle against the Christian armies who had attacked them. They were against odds, and you may have heard the numbers of 3,000 versus 100,000 plus. The Holy Prophet ﷺ sent the Muslims with the following chain of commanders: Zayd bin Harsa, and if he fell, Jafar bin Abi Talib, and if he fell, Abdullah bin Rawah, and if he fell, then the Muslims should choose their own commander. And reflect on this point. Zayd bin Harisa was a former slave who had been freed and adopted by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. He was young, and some felt that he was given a position despite his youth. Hazrat Jafar bin Abi Talib was the first cousin and a noble of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and a noble of Mecca through familial rights. Hazrat Abdullah bin Rawah was a chief among the Ansar of Medina. They were completely different people, and each was given the flag of Islam to bear till their last breath. And that's what they did. And then when each of them fell, a former inveterate enemy and now a new convert to Islam for just a few weeks, not years, but just a few weeks, a companion now by the name of Khalid, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, was given the flag, and he led the Muslims to victory and to safety. Today, we are in the battlefield as flag bearers. of Islam through Ahmadiyyat. The theme of MSLM 25 is consonant with our overall mission that we have to bear, which is achieving excellence through collective action and benefit to humanity. We may have come into this mission in diverse ways, from different backgrounds and skills, and some of us may have had privilege, others had to struggle. We come from different countries and different professions, but irrespective of how we came into the fold, we have been given the charge to bear that flag and that common mission in our various fields for excellence till our last breath. And I pray that MSLM 25 is training for that battlefield, and that each of you will take on that responsibility. So again, I welcome you, and I thank you for being here, and may Allah Ta'ala bless you. And with that, I would like to pass it to my co-moderator, Dr. Aziza Faruqi Saiba.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, and welcome to this session of MSLM 25. We are honored to have you all here with us today. My name is Aziza Faruqi, and I am a technologist by profession. I'm honored to co-moderate today's panel titled Preparedness, Engineering New Communities and Rebuilding Affected Communities, part of our broader theme, Achieving Excellence Through Collective Action and Benefit to Humanity. This panel explores how we can better prepare for, respond to, and rebuild after crisis, whether environmental, social, or economic, through intentional design and inclusive community planning. As crisis becomes more complex and frequent, integrated solutions and early-stage community planning are essential to building resilience and protecting lives. We are joined today by a remarkable panel of speakers who have each contributed to advancing this effort in their spheres, and we can't wait to hear from them. Each panelist will address their topic pertaining to the theme. Thereafter, we will have panel discussion with Q&A. Please feel free to note your questions along the way. Our first panelist is Lubna Chaudhry. The topic of her presentation is Rapid Shelter Solutions for Post-Disaster Recovery. Lubna Chaudhry holds bachelor's and master's degrees in architecture from University of Maryland and a master's in sustainable emergency architecture from the International University of Catalonia. Her research focused on design's impact in refugee camps and temporary shelters in the Gaza Strip. She has worked as an architectural designer on education and healthcare projects in Baltimore and on development initiatives along the US-Mexico border with the UCSD Center for Global Justice. Currently, she's a project manager at the Neighborhood Design Center in Baltimore, specializing in community design. She also supports the Jamaat through IAAE, contributing to design and planning for local mosques and community centers, including Bait al-Samad, Jopa Town Community Center, and Masjid Mubarak. I welcome Sister Lubna Chaudhry Saiba.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. As I've been introduced, my name is Lubna Chaudhry, and I'm excited to be presenting today on the topic of rapid shelter solutions for post-disaster recovery. This work is deeply inspired by the need to serve humanity with dignity and innovation in times of crisis. So as you can see on the screen in Surah Al-Baqarah, we are told by God that, and we will try you with something of fear and hunger and loss of wealth, lives, and fruit, but give glad tidings to the patient. Disasters test entire communities, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But as Muslims, we know that these trials are part of life and that we should respond with compassion and action. At the end of 2024, around 83.4 million people were internally displaced worldwide, by far the highest number in history. Disaster-related displacement has also been rising globally, with 45.8 million such movements in 2024. And conflict-driven displacement is making up 90% of all internal displacement, mostly in regions like the Sudan, Gaza, and the DR Congo. And in 2024, the Americas experienced a record 14.5 million internal displacements due to disasters, the highest on record. The US alone reported 11 million disaster-related displacements, marking the most ever recorded in a single country. And the chart on the screen shows displacement data from 2008 to 2024, and you can see the stark increase. And most US displacements were preemptive evacuations, moving people out of harm's way before disasters hit. But the sheer scale shows how climate and weather-related events are increasingly disrupting communities. While displacements in the US are often temporary and tied to evacuation systems, the growing scale compared to global data underscores the need for better preparedness, rapid shelter systems, and integration of climate resiliency into housing policy. So what is rapid shelter? When we talk about rapid shelter, we're not just talking about putting up tents. We're talking about emergency or transitional housing that can be quickly deployed, easily transported, and assembled in a matter of hours to days. These shelters are designed to respond to the immediate needs of the people who have lost everything after earthquakes, floods, wildfires, or conflict. They should be portable, climate resilient, and often modular, meaning they can expand or evolve into more permanent housing as needed. But beyond structure and speed, what makes rapid shelter so important is that it should protect dignity as well. Shelter solutions vary based on geography, resources, and cultural context. But the shared goal is, again, to quickly establish secure, habitable spaces for affected individuals and families. If we look at the international context, the three most common solutions include the UNHCR, which is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, tent and shelter kits. These are standardized, easy to transport, and by far the most common solution, provided by the UN for refugees and disaster victims. They're usually accompanied by basic shelter kits, which include plastic sheeting, rope, and tools for quick assembly, and they are intended for short-term use, but often remain in place for months or years in protracted crises. There's also prefabricated modular shelters, also called refugee housing units. These are more durable than tents with rigid frames, insulated panels, and lockable doors. These are designed to last a little bit longer, so 3 years, offering improved protection and dignity. They're mainly used in refugee camps in Jordan, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, among others. And finally, locally sourced or culturally appropriate structures utilize local materials like bamboo, timber, or mud bricks, and traditional building techniques. These are often more accepted by displaced communities and suited to the climate. They promote local livelihoods and can be quicker to deploy if and only if materials are available. Alternatively, in the United States, rapid shelter responses often support communities impacted by hurricanes, wildfires, and housing crises. Some common solutions include FEMA trailers and modular housing units. These are usually deployed after major disasters like hurricanes, floods, and wildfires. They provide temporary but private housing with basic amenities, but oftentimes are criticized for slow deployment and at times lack of long-term sustainability. And again, in these times, these are all heightened with funding cuts to organizations like FEMA. There's also emergency congregate shelters, and these are quick to set up using existing infrastructure like schools, churches, and arenas. They offer mass shelter with shared sleeping spaces and basic services, but because of this, they lack privacy and can be overcrowded. And finally, there's tiny home communities and pallet shelters. So this is an emerging solution for homelessness and disaster displacement. They're small, rapidly deployable structures offering privacy and security, and they're often paired with supportive services and designed as transitional housing. So when we think about rapid shelter after disaster, maybe your first thought would have been the tent, but the solution isn't just to deliver those tents quickly, and the reality is much more complex. And with that complexity, there are a lot of challenges. Many disaster zones are hard to reach. Roads may be destroyed or communities are isolated. Secondly, speed is everything. There's often delays, and these delays, even of a few days, can cost lives. Then there's the issue of one size fits all. Too often, shelters are designed without thinking about the local culture or family needs in mind, and many are not built to withstand the very disasters they're meant to respond to, like floods, fires, or heat. We also see cultural insights like lack of privacy for women, no space for family gatherings or prayer, and finally, funding and coordination challenges often delay delivery or lead to inequities in who gets help first. So I want to go back to the Holy Quran. As you can see on the screen, this verse begins by stating that Allah has made homes a place of rest and tranquility for people. This highlights the importance of a stable and comfortable dwelling And this verse also mentions that Allah provided dwellings from the hides of cattle, which are light and easy to carry during travel and at the time of settling. These tents made from animal hides were essential for nomadic life and provided shelter in various environments. What can we learn from this, and is there a connection to design principles being studied today? I would argue yes. This verse is a timeless reminder of how homes are meant to comfort us, and that even portable shelters, light, adaptable, and restful, are part of a divine design that meets human need and with dignity and ease. So some of these design principles you can see on the screen. As I've mentioned before in the presentation, they should be fast and easy to deploy, climate resilient, culturally appropriate, modular and adaptable. They should be off-grid ready and have some type of community involvement. And I'll go into some of these in a little bit more detail. First, looking at climate resiliency and energy efficient design. As climate change accelerates, the shelters we build must withstand stronger storms, higher temperatures, and unpredictable weather patterns. Climate resilient shelters are designed to endure, whether it's high winds in the Caribbean or heat waves in the Sahel. These designs go hand in hand with energy efficiency using solar power, reflective roofing, passive insulation, and even water collection systems to minimize dependency on fragile and oftentimes destroyed communities. These features not only protect lives, but also protect the planet, aligning disaster response with environmental stewardship. Secondly, foldable shelter. One of the biggest logistical challenges in disaster zones is getting materials where they're needed fast. These shelters can be shipped in standard containers, transported by truck or air, and assembled in a matter of hours. Solutions like IKEA's Better Shelter, the one you can see in the top left corner, are used globally, featuring built-in solar lighting and lockable doors. Others use origami principles to fold open into weatherproof structures. These are scalable systems for real-world complexity, but of course, they are not perfect solutions. Smart technology, a topic that we've been touching on this morning. So even in disaster zones, people need to stay connected for health, safety, and most importantly, hope. Many modern shelters now include smart features like solar lighting for safety, sensors that monitor air quality or detect fire, and Wi-Fi hotspots that enable digital learning or remote health check-ins. These features support not just physical survival, but emotional and social well-being. In places where infrastructure has collapsed, tech-enabled shelters can bridge the gap between displacement and recovery. Finally, community-led and adaptable solutions. So engaging affected populations in design and construction is important to meet cultural and social needs. And this may seem like common sense, but a lot of times in emergency situations, this is not the case. Modular systems that can evolve from temporary to semi-permanent or permanent housing is important. And the most successful shelter solutions are those designed with the people they serve. And modular systems allow families to expand their homes as needed, transitioning from emergency shelter to permanent residence. This isn't just architecture, it's also agency, and it's a model of recovery rooted in dignity and not dependency. Finally, shelter is not a solo effort. It takes engineers, architects, doctors, volunteers, and communities working side by side to respond meaningfully to a crisis. And shelter is, again, most effective when they're a part of a whole system. As displacement events grow more complex, shelter response is evolving beyond temporary solutions, focusing on dignity, sustainability, and long-term recovery pathways. I want to end this presentation with the same verse that I started with that reminds us not just of the realities of hardship, but also the strength and mercy found in patience. Again, Allah tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah that we will surely be tested with fear, with hunger, with loss, but He also tells us to give glad tidings to those who remain steadfast and patient. And in every disaster, whether it's an earthquake in Turkey, floods in Pakistan, or fires in California, we see this truth unfold. People lose everything, yet they respond with resilience, with faith and hope. This verse not only acknowledges the reality of hardship, it elevates patience as a source of strength. May Allah enable us to be among those who respond and be present for our communities in moments of need. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Lubna Saiba. It's my pleasure now to introduce Junaid Malik Saib, a civil engineer currently working at Capital Infrastructure Planning Management at Fairfax County in Virginia. Junaid Saib is a licensed professional engineer in the state of Virginia and Pennsylvania. He has achieved his bachelor's degree from the University of Engineering and Technology in Lahore, Pakistan. He's pursued his master's from Texas A&M. He has 2 decades of experience in planning, design, construction, and various other aspects of water infrastructure projects. These include critical water, wastewater, stormwater, pipelines, pump stations, related facilities. He's also on a Jamaat level, serving as chairman of IAAE in the USA, and his team has supported the USA Property Department in their projects, including land acquisition, site facility design, construction, maintenance consulting. He's worked for Humanity First USA in various capacities, and today he will talk to us about strategies for water quality control in emergency preparedness. So there's I'll call you to the podium, and please afterwards, if you would sit at the stage.
Jazakallah, Sir Saib. I'm going to test this real quick here. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, all right, it works. Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. It's an honor to be able to present on this topic at this event. When I was asked to present on this topic, especially about water, there's a lot that's going on in the world right now. As Lubna Saib also said, we've been seeing a lot of catastrophes, disasters that are occurring. And frankly speaking, my goal today is to repeat some of those things that we kind of all know, but we don't sort of pay attention because we take a lot of things for granted. So with that being said, here's a couple of Quranic verses that I gathered about pure water. It is He who sends down water from the skies, you drink thereof, and thereof the plants upon which you pasture your beasts. Another verse that we have here is that, remember how it was when He caused inner calm to unfold you as an assurance from Him, and sent down upon you water from the skies, so that He might purify you thereby and free you from Satan's unclean whisperings, and strengthen your heart, and thus make firm your steps. So water has a very significant place in the Holy Quran and Hadith as well. So, like I said, as I was thinking about it, I thought about a scenario, right? And it's a scenario that I have to deal with sometimes in my professional career, and it's very scary. So think about it. We have a situation. Lights go out, water dries up, you turn on the tap, there's no water. It's a pretty scary scenario, right? I mean, for a little while, you may not realize, but an hour goes by, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, right? It is really scary. And while that is happening, there's a lot going on, in the water systems that you have been used to, receiving water from. If you have a well, water could be sitting there getting contaminated. So here's a few ways the water could get contaminated. As you are waiting for things to turn back on, you may have a cross-contamination. If your water line is not pressurized, pressure drops, you get sewer water mixing with that. Your people that were supporting your water infrastructure, be it your municipal leaders, they may be panicking, they'll leave the office, they'll go home, pumps won't turn, water tanks won't turn over, game over, right? Extended power loss, you just don't know how long it's going to take for this stuff to come on, and this can just lead to over and over again, cause a problem. Now, then the panic sets in. You think about, okay, do I have water treatment? Do I have water storage? The longer the water sits idle, the worse its quality is going to be. And then all of a sudden you panic and you start making these decisions. Okay, where am I going to go? Where am I going to get the water? What am I going to do, right? I mean, am I going to go and start at my pond that's right next door to my house? Think about that scenario. It's a very realistic scenario, right? So as we think about all those things, this is a repeat of what we all learned in science class. Basically, there are a few ways water can get contaminated. It's a physical situation where sediment can get into the water, organic matter can get into the water. Water sits there, algae grows. That's organic matter. It is a physical piece of that. There's, of course, biological. Bacteria grows in untreated water, viruses, protozoa, and parasites. There's a reason why we don't drink from a pond right across our subdivision, right? And of course, the chemical and radiological contaminants. And this is very important because we live in a world where we are dealing with a lot of contaminants, pesticides, chemicals, radiological items that we have. We have stuff that's all over in our house, right? So the longer the water sits, the worse it's going to get. Okay, so let's get right into that. What am I going to do, right? Okay, first step, especially for drinking water, do not assume that water is clean, water is safe, right? If you go and assume that, you're going to get, it's just not the right way to start. So inside the home, your water heater can hold 70, 60, 50, 80 gallons, and depending on the size of your house you have. That is the first source that you should tap into. If that's available, because that's water that has been treated from the treatment plant and come over to the pipes to your house, so that's the cleanest source. Then you have ice cubes that have not been contaminated because of long failure in power. Then toilet tank, not bowl, but tank. That is water. It's just like a water heater. That's water. Depending on how many toilets you have in the house, typically it holds about 1.5 gallon, maybe 2 gallons. That's enough for survival, for drinking water, right? And then, of course, last but not least, if you have any water sitting in your canned food, your vegetables. If we stock up a lot of vegetables, there's always water in there, so that's a good source for emergency drinking water. Outside the home, of course, you can gather rainwater. You can You can go to get to natural springs if you know that that source is not contaminated. You can get to streams and rivers and ponds and lakes. Again, that is a secondary, option for finding emergency water. Okay, now, here are a few things that you can do, that we are typically aware of, like reverse osmosis, right? That's one way to kind of clean water. If you already have a system for reverse osmosis, that's great. If you don't have it, use a paper towel, right? Use a coffee filter. These are things that you think about. Use a clean cloth. You could use something that can clean that water. Boiling. Now, you may not have gas. You may have electric, so you got to think about all that. How are you going to boil the water, right? Disinfect. This is very important. Every household has bleach, okay? And depending on the concentration of the bleach can cause your water to be purified, right? Again, I have some statistics over here. I can always share those with you later on. But if you go to any FEMA CDC website, this is very clear. You can use bleach as well. Chemical tablets. Some of you all have pools in the house, you can use those chemical tablets as well. Chlorine and iodine tablets, right? And of course, UV, solar is another way to disinfect. Again, these are all topics that can be further expanded, but again, this is important. Of course, distillation. We're very familiar with the distillation process. It's another way where you can make your drinking water safe. But again, it all requires your knowledge. I think that one of the things I do want to emphasize when you leave this is look at your situation. Everybody has a situation. People have wells, some people have municipal water. Think what you're going to do when the lights go out, right? Or the water does not come in. Distillation is another one. We talked about that. Okay, what can you do beyond that? Pre-purchasing of bottled water, right? Emergency water. You can buy these filters from Amazon. You can buy these fancy pitchers. You can have, chemicals like for water purification tablets, that kind of stuff. Or you can build your own water treatment system. And that's something that I know Humanity First, we're working with them right now to kind of build these kind of, treatment systems. So again, the bottom line is assess your situation, see what works for you, and have a variety of options. What if this one doesn't work? I'm going to go to this one, right? So not to scare you, but in a way kind of to scare you, right? That's the plan here. Okay, now let's say you clean the water. In an emergency, you were able to use one of these methods to clean it. What are you going to do about it, right? Contamination is one of the major reasons why you don't even see it, that water is going to get contaminated. It's going to, it's not going to be usable. So have a system that is sustainable. You don't want to buy these, fancy things that you just run out and then all of a sudden you don't have clean water, right? It's good for short term, think long term, right? Glass or food grade plastics do a little bit better compared to other materials. Stored in a cool, dry place. Usually basements are the best. Inspect and test. There are cleaning kits available online for you to test and inspect. Physically inspect the water as well as test the water. And of course, document the process. You want to teach this process to your loved ones, your wife, your kids, your parents, whoever's in your household, your community members, your elderly. You want to teach them what you learned, right? And then document it. What if you're not around? What if you get sick and you pass away? Do you want the others to survive or not, right? So that's documentation is very important. Get organized. And then, of course, like I said earlier, educate yourself. There are a lot of resources. In fact, there are so many resources that if you start looking at them, you'll get lost. And my goal today was not to make you lost in that abyss, but just see your own situation. Think of a scenario, prepare yourself. CDC, EPA, FEMA, they have developed so many items here, Take action. Build an emergency kit. Get educated. Do an emergency drill. We all work in our communities, and we have fire drills, right? So why not having a drill that, hey, we're not going to have water one day, what are we going to do, right? Just do it at home. Do it at your masjid, right? That's something that we're trying with the Humanity First, Khudam al-Hamdiya, I know at Baghi Ahmed, we have plans for that as well. And then practice, perfect, and document. So those are the things that I did want to mention, to you. These are some of these aspects are non-technical, but they really help the technical side of this water safety. So with that, again, I was very much focused on the drinking water. I do want to acknowledge, all my resources. These will be available for you guys to take a look at, but they have it's a wealth of information. And if you have any questions, I'm always there to kind of answer, so I'm in the state of Virginia, my brother lives in New York, so even your local Department of Environmental Quality has a lot of information for you available. So please review it and also, get educated. Now, let's talk a little bit about, there was one about potable, okay, I think I can briefly talk about that. So there's potable water and non-potable water. Potable water is drinking water. Non-potable water is stuff that you can use to wash and do all that. Rainwater cisterns, if you have a house, you can always collect rainwater. It's not drinking water quality, but it can be used, it can offset your water demand. Typically in emergency, a person needs about a gallon per day per person. So think about it, a gallon per day per person. So, but the drinking water portion is only 20% of that. 80% of that water that you have, which is 80% of a gallon, basically 0.8 gallons, is for your other usages, cleaning, washing, sanitation, that kind of stuff. So think about other sources of water like rainwater, pond water, even, in some cases, even condensate from air conditioning that can be used as well, for that. So with that, I do want to, Jazakallah, for giving me the opportunity, Dr. Saab. And if we can of course entertain some questions as well. Take it, Jazakallah. I'll leave this over here for the next presenter.
Jazakallah. Junaid Sahab, please stay on the podium, or on the stage rather. And please save up your questions. We hope to have robust Q&A after the speakers finish. And without further ado, I have the privilege of introducing Dr. Abdus Salam Malik Sahib, who's a seasoned nephrologist with 3 decades of experience, a clinical associate professor at the Ohio State University and medical director of the Fairfield Kidney Center in Lancaster, Ohio. Dr. Malik earned his medical degree from Dow Medical University in Karachi, Pakistan, completed his nephrology fellowship at Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York City in 1993, and he will talk to us about strategies for nuclear emergency preparedness and management.
Assalamu alaikum. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأوحي إلى نوح أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من فقد آمن فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يفعلون واصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون. Hazur Yadullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz has been advising us, warning us, cautioning us, guiding us to prepare for a calamity that has been foretold, which is bound to happen. And people have asked Hazur several times on different occasions, and Hazur said, yes, you should do dua and be pious and righteous. So Allah Ta'ala can save you and delay it, but it's not going to cancel out. It may be postponed, but it's going to strike us. The topic that we are going to discuss today is about atomic emergency. There are a lot of disasters that we see, we face, we watch, observe, where natural disasters are happening, some are man-made disasters. And over the years, people have developed systems to recover from them. In America, we have FEMA, things happen, hurricanes come, and people go down, they're down for a few days, few weeks, and then aid comes and the recovery efforts start. But atomic or nuclear emergency is something that we are not prepared for, and we cannot even properly comprehend it either. So far, there have only been 3 notable nuclear emergencies which happened to the mankind. 2 happened about 80 years ago. and one happened about 40 years ago in Chernobyl. So we're talking about Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Chernobyl. Before we go into the strategies, what we can do to save ourselves and humanity, just a short overview of what a nuclear emergency entails. So there are two main aspects of a nuclear emergency. One is when we have the actual explosion or atomic bomb explodes, a direct impact, and it causes problems which are very immediate, almost instantaneous. Major casualties happen because of that, and essentially not much one can do about it. It involves their technical details. I don't think I have time to go over all those. You know, there's blast wave, thermal radiation, intense heat production, ionizing radiation happens, EMP effects happens, blast light happens. All those things happen within a period of few seconds. And within a minute or two, the first wave of destruction is over. Hundreds of thousands of people are done, they are gone, they get evaporated. And then there is radioactive fallout. So what happens, this is this picture, that slide that is showing there, they compared the severe damaged zone, which happens when a nuclear explosion happens or atomic device is detonated. There are different variables in that, depending upon the yield of the atomic weapon or at the altitude where it was detonated. Just for comparison, the yield of atomic bomb which was used in Hiroshima was about 15 kilotons, and one which happened in Nagasaki was about 20 kilotons. So here in this, they're showing us 100 kiloton, 1 megaton, and 10 megaton. Typical missiles they are using these days, which are there, which they may expect to use, they carry anywhere from 100 kilotons to about 1 megaton devices. They have heavier atomic devices, which they deliver through long-range bombers, which can go up to 30 or even 50 megatons. So, but this is the area. If it is a 100 kiloton, about a couple of miles will be just evaporate. And if you have a 10 megaton device, they have centered it around Manhattan, so it's about 10-mile radius will disappear. Now, when a blast happens, this graphic is important. It gives us a timeline. The one in the beginning, I don't have a pointer, and they are using about 10 kiloton device. The one in the yellow, the red and orange and yellow, that is total destruction. And things will just disappear. And after that, the radiation fallout and the blast zone, which moves forward, it has a very rapid decay. The radiation comes out, very intense radiation, and it spreads depending upon the wind direction, and it can reach anywhere from 5 miles to 10 miles, and then it shrinks within about 48 hours, it just disappears. But in that time period, people will get this, purple color thing. They will have lethal exposure, lethal dose of radiation, and within a day or two or maximum a week, you will have another set of casualties, people dying from acute radiation sickness. This is again another pictorial giving us a timeline, the things that happen when the detonation happens, and then things kind of slow down, and problems continue, long-term problems happen as well. This is after the initial detonation has happened, this is the thing that those who survive will be facing, and that's where I would like us to concentrate on that. So after the bomb is done, people who are going to die, the lucky ones who die with that, they're gone. Those who are left behind, they will face these problems. There is local disruption. There will be law and order situation. There will be distant supply chain disruptions, and there will be essentially, as they study this and they project that there is going to be a collapse of the society. So you will not have water supply, you will not have electricity, you will not have sanitation, you will not have food. Nothing will be coming in. We are particularly living in the urbanized areas. We are so dependent on supply chain. And that's why Hazur has been telling us, store some food supply for 3 months, 6 months. All these things will be gone. Law and order situation will happen. Nobody will be coming from outside. There will not be any FEMA, and I'll explain you why. FEMA will not be there. The police will not be there. Society will be gone. Civilization will be gone. And you will have to defend yourself as well if you survive. And that tends to set in within first 12 to 48 hours. This law and order looting and killing that starts. This is another depiction where, if you study it, later on you can spend some time on this pictorial, where they are telling us what kind of problems will start at what time and what evasive or preventive or protective measures you can take. If you look at it, the two things stands out in order to protect yourself: shelter and evacuation. Shelter and evacuation, shelter and evacuation. Because in first, and this is standard advice, when an atomic explosion happens, if you happen to be there, go into shelter for first 48 hours. And the reason is that rapid decay of the radiation. For those 48 hours, you should not go out. Wherever you are, stay in place. Try to go into the lowest possible floor. In buildings like this, concrete buildings, go to the basement. You have best chance of survival from radiation. After that, after those 48 hours, you need to move. You cannot stay put. You have to move somewhere. Because if you stay put, you'll be dead meat. Because whoever will be out there will be surviving. He will come after you. For whatever limited resources you will have, people will start killing each other for that. Whatever food you have stored, they will come after you. If you have something to defend yourself, you can defend yourself for a little while. But for how long? So they say evacuate. Now when you talk about FEMA and the emergency preparation people, they're talking about evacuate to some safe place where the government will be there to help you, where we have these rapid shelters, erected. We had the first presentation we had. But that is in the regular, routine, run-of-the-mill disaster you're talking about. Not in case of a full-fledged atomic war. What they call is a mutually assured destruction. Nobody will be there. So there are different kinds of shelters that you can prepare. One is, bunkers. This is the best thing, but it is not affordable. It's the safest, but very expensive. Then you can shelter in place. This is the easiest thing because you will not have much notice. So if it is a nuclear attack, they say you will have probably, if the government is not taken by surprise, you will have probably 10 or 15 minutes notice. It is coming, so do whatever you can. So the closest place will be your home, naturally. But then again, there is the ease. You can store things there, but that's not going to be a safe place. And most of the homes are not built where you can have protection from the radiation. Most of us, are built by, the wooden homes, and all that stuff. Concrete structure will be the one that you need to be in. Then the other thing is that it may not be in the safe zone, and I will discuss that safe zone in a sec. And there is very low safety because if you survive, even people around you, your neighbors, people around there, they will come after you. And definitely, you have to think about long-term survival. So it's not a matter of surviving for 48 hours or 1 week or 2 weeks. Nobody's coming. Hazur said initially 6 months. If you just think about that, if Hazur is saying preparing for 6 months, the society is gone, civilization is gone. Nobody will come out to help you, so you will have to think about long-term survival. So then you can go to the local mosque, that is again, the only advantage is that you'll have some safety in number, that instead of just being your own family yourself at home, in the mosque you may have 100, 200 people, so you have some safety in number. When the looting and chaos starts, you may be able to defend yourself for a little while, but the problem will still remain the same, that long-term survival won't be possible there, and it may not be in the safe zone. And the safe zone is a very critical part that I will discuss as we get there. Then you go to, the other thing is, if you have time before the event, or if you survive and you can, you have to find a safe site where you can think long term. This is the safest thing, but it takes, and it's good for long-term survival, but it takes a lot of planning. It's a lot of work ahead of time and needs a lot of practice for that as well. So ideal evacuation site should be a safe distance from main metropolitan areas. And it should be in the safe zone from the radiation point of view. It should be something where you can reach. Remember, when this thing happens, you will not have freeways available. You will not have the roads open. So you will have to think about that, how you're going to get there. You may not have, if there's an EMP is associated with that, most of our current, this day's age, vehicles, motor cars and stuff like that will not be working, and you may not be able to use them. Those are the things. So this is, if you concentrate on this map, this is generated by FEMA information. This is what they are projecting in case of a full-fledged atomic or nuclear exchange with their adversary, say, USSR or Russia. This is the map of USA will look like. Now, if you go back to the previous slide where we talked about the yellow sphere and then these and the wind, which was fallout. So this is what it is showing. So the areas which are red, these are the ones which are red zones, which is gone. Nothing is going to be left there. And then there's going to be those, purple and green. Those are the radiation, high radiation, where you may survive initial impact, but the radiation will get you. So what your aim is to get into either those white areas or the yellow areas, where you'll be protected from the radiation and you can plan to survive there for long term. Now, I do want to scare you, but I also don't want to scare you. If you look at the eastern seaboard, look where we are sitting, there's not much hope here. We are all in red hot zones. And Hazur has talked about that. Hazur has said, people did ask that if this is going to be the calamity where the entire mankind will be wiped out, Hazur said no. There will be areas who will survive. But unfortunately, where we are living, these are the areas where probably will be this and Europe and other areas, which probably will be annihilated. So when we are planning for long-term evacuation or developing a site, this map is of fundamental importance, that when we plan, we should find places, and there are places, as it was mentioned that I have been working on Jamaat's Umur-e-Amma committee for last year and a half, discussing these things, and trust me, we have certain areas which is within a couple of miles away from here, where people can potentially move to survive. So what do we need? Now, there are two levels of preparations. One is individual and a family preparation, and one which has to be done by the community. So for the individual preparations, we all heard about that survival kits, at the Justice Salana. Humanity First had pre-prepared emergency or survival kits. They're very good. They have done a lot of work on that in preparing those things. Work for food supply, as we said, 3 months to 6 months. Medicines, your essential documents, stuff like that. Think about communication. You will not have cell phones after that. Your communication system will be gone. So you have to have some alternate systems to communicate between individual family members, and then at the community level as well. And at the community level, Hazur Ayatollah bin Nasr al-Aziz had given specific advice and directions that we should have satellite phones. And those of us who can afford it, they should try to get it. It costs about $700 for the device and about $500 to $600 per year for their prescription. Yes, I'm almost done, Jazakallah. I tried to do it in 10 minutes. I said I'll try, and I was told, just finish it through. The thing about transportation mechanism, how you'll transport there, have to have safety equipment, and you should also prepare for the EMP protection. There are Faraday cages that you can develop. Then the evacuation preparation, when you're planning about that you're going to evacuate, you should have this mechanism, how you're going to transport, how you're going to travel there, what routes you will take, what roads you will take. The regular roads and freeways will be gone. You have evacuation trips, things ready. And as far as the evacuation site preparation, these are the things that we have been working on, and we're trying to figure it out. Have to have it in the safety zone. We should have resources available for survival. We should have to have land where we can live long-term cultivation, agriculture, hunting places. We have to have water supply. We have to have trees, natural resources, food storage, shelter, EMP protection, sanitation system, medical system in place, healthcare, and equipment for communication, for self-protection, for hunting, for agriculture, and practice, and practice. Jazakallah. How much I did over? 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
A little bit more.
What, 4 minutes?
Jazakallah. That was such an important topic. And yet each of these topics is only given a few minutes just to provide a highlight. We really want the Q&A to be robust, and we have just under 30 minutes for Q&A. And so what I would like to do at this point is ask Aziza Faruqi Saiba to please field any questions from the ladies' side, and then we'll come to the men's side. And for the men, please, I presume the ladies are very similar. There are microphones set up here, so please, if you have...
Assalamu alaikum, there is one speaker left
Oh,
on the men's side.
oh, you're right. Okay. I'm sorry. Actually, in the program, there is another speaker. I think just it wasn't highlighted. So there's one more speaker, and then we'll have Q&A. And I would just ask all the speakers to please keep to their time. The next speaker is Ahmad Khan Saab, considerations in planning, developing land sites for large Jamaat projects. Is Ahmad Khan Saab here? Okay, please come up to the stage. Ahmad Khan Saab has 30 years of civil engineering experience, 200 plus development projects, and the list goes on. I will pass off to Ahmad Khan Saab.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to be the last speaker, so I'll try to make it quick. Just an attempt to plant a seed in those who are in this audience that are entrusted to develop properties for Jamaat in their respective chapters, to let them know about availability of resources that IEEE has, and they can save a lot of cost and guide your project and process so we don't fall into cost overruns and other challenges that we have seen over these last 15, 20 plus years when Jamaat has grown now. We need to develop a robust system where there are some input from IEEE experts, and we have a whole team of engineers and architects and planners who can help us on this. So I'll continue with this real quick. The basic purpose of this presentation is to put that idea in your heads that we do have in-house capabilities that Jamaat can tap on. There's a Quranic reference that talks about, remember when your Lord said to the angels, I'm going to place a successive human authority on earth. So what we believe, what it means is that there's somebody who's a stewardship or representative in, to develop an orderly world. And that's what this verse alludes to, that there would be my representatives who would guide humanity further. What is site development? We all know it. Many of the doctors that are here, they love buying properties and selling properties, so they know what is site development, due diligence processes. So this is just a little synopsis of why it matters, because it would save you dollars. And if you do your site due diligence early, you can save a whole lot of time and grief from happening later on. What IEEE due diligence team brings to the table, we have, as I said, planners, environmental engineers, geotechnical engineers, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architects, and many more. So by bringing them all together, we can go through your plan and then give you a list of risk factors. We can create a risk register that will tell you what you should be looking for and guide you through the process. Some of the categories are on this list. I'm not going to go through them, but there are a whole, depending on the complexity of the project. If it's a simple development, it might be a very small list, but if it's as we understand, we are buying properties, larger properties for jalsagas and other facilities, then this list will come really handy. Timing matters. Sometimes we tend to buy property and say, okay, let's figure out later what we're going to do with it or how we're going to do it. Not the right approach. Let's put our processes in place, go through due diligence process. A lot of these large developers, either they're public or private, they go through this rigorous process and they pay consultants like us to come up with a list of due diligence items, and there are sometimes costs 1% to 2% of the entire project cost to do an early due diligence. And many times when we do these processes for them, then they have to make a decision whether it's a go, no go, or whether they can negotiate a price to factor in those costs. So some of these things come in play. It's just not financial. We saw what happened in Texas when there was a flood at a campsite. So what happened there was some smart engineer, with the help of owner, decided to not pay the flood insurance rate maps. So they asked FEMA to remove their site from the flood ways and floodplains. And guess what happened? The river flooded and they get washed away. So one life was too many to lose. That's why there's no shortcuts. Get the process in. Whenever we develop any property anywhere in the U.S., we should always look for life safety first. And then what can Jamaat do for future projects? We can help them understand realistic fiscal commitments and schedules, limitations of property, what you can do and what you cannot do, and then help them during permitting if that project is feasible. This is pretty much it. I went through it really quick. In Quran too, I brought a couple of references. Surah Al-Baqarah says that transparency and honesty in transactions. Then there's Surah Al-Mutaffifin that says avoiding deception. So, don't sell things that are not true. And then Surah Al-Imran says that believers to consult with others before making a decision and then trust in Allah. So it says, do your homework first and then make a decision and then pray. but you don't just start praying and not, do your due diligence. So that's the whole purpose of this presentation. Jazakallah. That was quick.
Please join us at the front. Okay. Jazakallah, you've made up for time, and yet we have only about 20 minutes. And so please, let's start with the ladies. And for the men, please, if you have questions, line up at the microphones.
Jazakallah, Dr. Saab. And Jazakallah to all the speakers for some eye-opening and some eye-popping presentations. If there are any questions on the ladies' side, please come and line up. There's a question from this other side. Let me move them.
Assalamu alaikum. I appreciate all the very good information regarding this topic. I have two questions. One's for Dr. Malik and the other one's for all the panelists. Why on the map did the West Coast seem to appear as the, I guess, safe zone, the white area? And then for the rest of the panelists, we talked about rapid shelters or sheltering being one of the necessities to plan for, but all the shelters appear to be on land. Is there any consideration for creating shelter on sea or water? Jazakallah.
The question was, why is the West Coast relatively spared compared to the East Coast? And I would just say rapid, brief responses.
Assalamu alaikum. So it depends on the number of critical installations which are on East Coast versus the West Coast. So on the East Coast, there are a lot of, if you look at it, there's a population density is much higher, and there are a lot of, from military point of view, installations which are more concentrated on the East Coast than the West Coast. So, but again, if you look at that map carefully, all the urbanized areas on the West Coast, they are all doomed. So yes, you're seeing those areas which are spared on the West Coast, but they're not populated, those areas. Wherever there is population, we found out in our research that wherever there's population, those areas are in red hot zone. And fortunately or unfortunately, in a sense, our Jamaat's population, if you put the layout on it, it matches. So our Jamaat concentration is exactly in the same areas where the natural population distribution is.
And we'll, if the ladies, do they have more questions?
Assalamu alaikum. I can answer the second question about shelter on water. So generally speaking, after a disaster, the first thing you would look for, if you're in a flooding situation, is look for dry land. But a lot of shelter solutions that are now starting to be pre-planned in places like Bangladesh, where there's a lot of, now there's a known, risk of flooding. The way that they're designing their cities and housing now is, connected to the flooding. So they'll build one story higher, or they'll build on materials that are easily movable. So it's starting to become a research topic, but I would say it's still in the works. There's also, in city planning now, there's a lot of research on, sustainability and climate resilience, because a lot of our coasts are going underwater. So in places like New York, there's a lot of work being done about saving kind of the, outer Manhattan developments. So there's work being done, but as far as a quick, rapid shelter solution goes, there aren't that many actually.
Assalamu alaikum. My question was, when we were talking about what happens after a nuclear disaster, was that seen in previous nuclear disasters? Like, what happens like after the people who are left surviving, like that, what you said's gonna happen, has that been seen before?
All right, so as I said, there are only 3 nuclear disasters which humanity has faced so far. So yes, a lot of that was based on mainly what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then they extrapolated the yield or the power of the nuclear device. So it was only 15 kilotons in Hiroshima and about 20 kilotons in Nagasaki. But now, standard, unless you're talking about tactical nuclear weapons, which are very small yield used in the battlefield, they are around 100 kilotons. And some of the latest missiles that they have developed, they can go up to 1 megaton. So they extrapolated the strength of the device and the level of destruction that will occur, what you can say, for lack of, because we have not experienced that yet.
Jazakallah. Shall we switch to the men's side now for questions? Is that okay?
Actually, there is a line of 3 questions. If you can take them, excellent. Otherwise, we'll move on to the men's side.
Sure. How about this? How about we still have those questioners ready to go, and we'll switch for 5 minutes to the men's side, and then we'll give 5 minutes back to you?
Sure.
Okay, Jazakallah. And there are 3 questioners here, and please very briefly tell us who you are, where you're from, and then ask your question. And then we'll go 1, 2, and 3. I can hear you, but can, okay. There's a microphone right here, if you'd like to just take it.
Yeah, I'm actually trained by the Red Cross for emergency preparedness. So I have done like many weeks of training in New Jersey and in Baltimore. Now, I have 3 questions. The first one is that we haven't discussed about any underground water in case of any contamination. The first thing that can we do it like something about that, and also is there any, we have done any pilot project in case of like we do practice in schools, we do like once in a month some emergency drill, evacuation. So is there anything we have done? We
meaning Jamaat?
Yeah, Jamaat, yeah. That.
I see. Would anyone like to field this question, including Lubna Saiba?
So, no, we have not done any, although we have proposed it, the committee that was formed, they've been working on it, and inshallah, I think starting in November, we will be, we are developing a program with help of MKA and Baghi Ahmed, where we are going to train people to come for evacuation and survival, learning those skills, and then they can take them back to their individual Jamaats, and then they can train local people there, Jamaat members. So yeah, we are planning to start work on that, yes.
Jazakallah. And Lubna Saiba, did you want to add anything?
No, she doesn't have a comment on this.
Thank you. And Manzoor Saab, can you at least introduce yourself with your first name? That was a joke. But can you tell us who you are?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Manzoor Rahman and I am from Northern Virginia Jamaat here in. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. I think all the questions are going for Malik Saab, and mine is too, but also for Junaid Saab. So I think my first reaction is immediately in case of the worst case scenario that the map was showing. I think then are we required by Quran or something to, otherwise why would we even try to live? Why we should try to even find a way to further prolong our lives? I mean, that's enough. But that is just an immediate reaction. My question actually to him is, that, you know, you showed it 100 kiloton map and the area of influence of that. And then you showed, I mean, that map was showing, I think you're going only up to 10 miles or so, you know. But I think we would like to know if that, for example, what exactly where the intensity is going further, you know, will diminish to the point like 100 miles if you are from that center 100 miles away, then, you know, are you safe or not? And the other second thing for Junaid Sahib is that the scenarios of water safety and use and things that you are mentioning, I think they also fall if we survive that kind of attack or something. Otherwise, they are only our collection of goods or produce or something is only valuable to the point that if, for example, there is some disturbance to the supply chain and you don't find anything in the grocery stores, so, you know, for a few weeks, 6-8 weeks, you have, you know, you can survive. But otherwise, in that kind of situation, you don't need really anything. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Perhaps a short response.
Yes, so as I mentioned, you know, that for that case scenario, we have to prepare for long-term survival where you have to your own food supply, where you have to do your own agriculture, where you have to do your own hunting. So essentially you will have to reinvent civilization and you will have to prepare for that. And yes, we are obligated to prepare for that because Allah is telling us, Hazur is telling us, Quran is, that were the words I used, that prepare for it, and yes, destruction is going to happen. And yes, those who Allah Ta'ala would wish to save, He will save them. And our job is to prepare for that, whether we are honestly, just to be on the make it short, to be very honest, most of us, if it happens, even with all the preparations, most of us will not survive. So all this is going to be for the younger generation. And I am fully aware that if it happens today, I won't be one of those survivors, even if I'm able to get to that safe site. Because what will entail after that, it is mind-boggling, you know. So you will essentially be starting from the cave life. No medicine, no insulin, things like that. Yeah, so that distance, that's why I showed a map. So we studied that map very extensively. And if you go about 50 to 60 miles away, you get into the safe zone. So from those, you know, those centers, those red hot spots, if you move about 60 miles away from that, then you get into this, you know, survivable zone. Not safe zone, so you can survive. You won't die of acute radiation sickness.
Jazakallah. We are only 5 minutes away from being from having to end. We have to pass to the ladies, but let's allow just a very brief question and a briefer response.
Well, so what kind of medical infrastructure needs to be developed in these like small little like enclaves? You said that we're going to develop like, you know, people of multiple families or groups kind of come together. You said like farming and other things like that, but what kind of medical infrastructure needs to be built?
Whatever we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Jazakallah. And now I'm going to pass to Aziza Saiba to field the remaining questions and also to announce the next session.
So Doctor, was that short enough?
That was perfect. Perfect. Jazakallah, you're doing better with each response.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I just want to know what's the cost of one of these shelters?
So it varies a lot depending on where you are in the world, what materials you're using. But I believe the one that is closest to something that maybe you would see here is the IKEA Better Shelter, and I think it's about 6,000, which is, I mean, for someone here, maybe that's okay, but if you're going into other places in the world, that's still pretty costly. So that is also, you know, research that is possible for people to do, how to get lower cost shelters.
Assalamu alaikum. My question was for Junaid Saab, and I just wanted to ask, are there any new technologies like solar disinfection or nanofiltration that are becoming more practical for home use?
The technology is always evolving, I should say.
But again, you have to make sure that whatever you choose, you have a variety of options. If you have to keep sustainability in mind. So whatever technology you choose, you should be able to replicate it. If you're not around, your kids, your other people in your family should be able to replicate it. So that would be my only thing. But yes, on the solar side, there is UV disinfection is becoming very, very popular now. You can buy these UV lights that you can put in the water. Typically, in a typical UV system, the three-stage system, it's very common with the latest technology. Reverse osmosis is another technology that's really getting a lot of more traction now with the higher quality membranes. They use that to filter seawater, and that was one of the things that they were trying to do in Gaza, to be able to take saline or like ocean water and just kind of convert it to drinking water. So the technology in RO and UV is evolving rapidly. So it's a good option to have if you can afford it. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asfa Mirza. My question is that if nuclear were to happen, then radioactive waste would enter water, and since all bodies of water are connected, that radioactive waste could end up all throughout like the waters of the country. And then if you were to like find a way, if you were in a situation where you needed like water to use or to drink, then how would that work?
So that is absolutely right. Any water body that is exposed to the environmental elements, yes, it will be impacted immediately. But however, like well water or water in the lower strata that is untouched by human activity is still going to be a very good source. So that's why I think Jamaat-wide there has been a strategy to develop wells, if you can, as an independent source, because that will not be readily, I mean, it won't be contaminated immediately, right? So I think that's underground water sources includes well research. Dr. you want to add something?
Yeah, so quickly, want to be short. Yes, we will survive. The water will be contaminated, but humanity will survive from that. And we have a case study in that in Chernobyl. I will not elaborate any further. It will become long then.
Assalamu alaikum. So we are on time now. We're at time now, and I think we can all use a break after this all the fascinating presenters and all the questions that have been asked. So there will be a break from now till 5 p.m. and then from 5 to 6 we have 2 parallel sessions. Session 1 is going to be at the same location, Bethesdan A-B for men and Bethesdan C and D for women. And it is on mind, body, medicine, rethinking the wellness equation. The second session is at the lobby outside of Bethesdan room, and this is the mentoring session for career development. So Jazakallah for attending this session.